My name is Commander Elias Vance, and the moment the signal hit our receivers, I knew our patrol was over. I was standing on the bridge of the starship Prometheus, 3 months out from the nearest human colony, deep in a region of space called the Kalari Rift. My coffee had gone cold hours ago. My eyes burned from staring at star charts. It was supposed to be a quiet run, a routine patrol, the kind of mission where the biggest problem is boredom. Then the alarm sounded. My communications officer, a young woman named Clara Bennett, turned in her seat so fast I thought she had been shocked. Her face was pale. Her hands were shaking over her console. "Commander," she said, and her voice cracked. "I have a wideband distress call. Every frequency we monitor. It is flooding the channels." "Source?" I asked, already moving toward her station. "Velthari space, sir. It is the Velthari. Oh no. Oh please no." The Velthari. My stomach dropped the second I heard the name. The Velthari were one of the first friendly species humanity ever met. 6 years ago, they welcomed our diplomats with open wings. They were gentle people, bird-like in shape, with soft feathers and softer voices. They were farmers. They were poets. They wrote music that made grown people cry. They had no real navy. They had no real weapons. They once gifted humanity an entire library of their songs as a gift of friendship, and I had a copy of it on my personal data pad. I leaned over Clara's shoulder and listened to the signal myself. The translator struggled at first, catching only broken pieces, but then the words came through and my blood turned to ice. "Please, anyone who can hear. They are here. They came from the dark side of our sun. Our cities are burning, our children, please, we have no one is coming. Please, if any friend of the Velthari can hear this signal, we beg you." The message repeated, again and again. Each time the voice grew weaker. Each time I could hear more screaming in the background. Each time I felt my hands curl into tight fists at my sides. I looked up at my bridge crew. Every face was turned toward me. Every pair of eyes waited for orders. My second-in-command stepped closer. Her name was Lieutenant Commander Hannah Reyes. She was short, sharp-eyed, and had served with me for 4 years. I trusted her more than I trusted my own reflection. "Sir," she said quietly, "protocol states we must wait for High Command to authorize any response to a foreign distress signal. The Velthari are not a protected ally under the military treaty, not officially." "How long until High Command can respond?" I asked. She checked her pad. 12 hours minimum, sir. The subspace relay has to bounce the signal through 3 stations before it reaches Earth. Then the response has to come back. 12 hours. I looked at the speaker that was still pouring out that desperate voice. 12 hours was a lifetime. In 12 hours, a whole world could burn. I thought about the Velthari ambassador who had come aboard my ship 2 years ago during a cultural exchange. He was old, even by the long standards of his people. His feathers were gray at the tips. He had shared a meal with me in my quarters. I remembered him looking at a small picture I kept on my desk, a picture of my daughter Myra back home on Mars. He had smiled in that strange, kind way the Velthari smile, and he had said something I never forgot. "Humans," he told me, "carry storms inside their ribs. You do not know it yet, but when the wind blows hard enough, the rest of us will learn." I had laughed politely at the time. I did not understand what he meant. I understood now. "Set course for the Velthari home system," I said. "Full burn. Get us there in 4 hours or less." Reyes blinked once, only once. Then she turned to the helm. "You heard the commander. Plot the course. Maximum jump." My tactical officer spoke up. His name was Petty Officer Daniel Hughes, and he was the calmest man I had ever known. He did not look calm now. "Sir, if we move without orders, you could face a court-martial. You could lose everything." "I know, Daniel." "Sir, the other 5 ships in our task force will follow your lead. You could cost 5 captains their careers." "I know that too." I walked to my command chair and sat down slowly. I placed my hands on the armrests. I looked at the main screen, where the stars were already shifting as the navigation system prepared for the jump. "Open a channel to the rest of the fleet," I said. Clara nodded. Her hands were steadier now. "Channel open, sir." I took a breath, then I spoke. "This is Commander Vance of the starship Prometheus. I have received a confirmed distress signal from the Velthari Conclave. Our friends are being attacked. I do not know by whom. I do not know how many. I do not know if we can help them. But I know this. If we do not go, no one will. And a civilization of poets and farmers will end today because the rest of the galaxy decided paperwork was more important than mercy. I am ordering our task force to move immediately to their aid. Any captain who wants to refuse this order has my permission to break off and return to base. I will not hold it against you, but I am going. Choose now." I waited. I counted the seconds. One by one, the voices came back. "This is Captain Alcoy of the Ironsides. We are with you, Commander." "This is Captain Chen of the Bellerophon. Plotting course now, sir." "Redstone confirms. We follow the Prometheus." "Stormcrow confirms." "Longshot confirms." 6 ships, 6 captains. Not one refused. I let out a breath I did not know I was holding. My eyes burned, but I pushed the feeling away. There was no time for it. "All ships jump on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark." The stars stretched into lines of light. The bridge hummed with the deep song of the jump drive. We were gone. For the next 4 hours I did not leave my chair. I reviewed every piece of information we had on the Velthari. I studied their system. I tried to guess who the attackers might be. Nothing made sense. The Velthari had no enemies that I knew of. They traded with everyone. They threatened no one. Reyes brought me a cup of fresh coffee at some point. She did not speak. She just set it down and squeezed my shoulder once. Then she went back to her station. I sipped the coffee and stared at the countdown timer. 4 minutes to arrival. I stood and walked slowly down the center of the bridge. I looked at each of my officers in turn. Clara at communications, Daniel at tactical, Ensign Peter Holloway at the helm, Lieutenant Grace Whittaker at engineering, Reyes at my right hand. Every one of them was focused. Every one of them was ready. "Whatever is on the other side of this jump," I told them, "remember why we came. Remember who called for help. Remember that we answered." They nodded. Not one of them spoke. They did not need to. 2 minutes. I returned to my chair. "Bring up all shields as we exit jump. Weapons on standby. Full scan the moment we see stars again." "Yes, sir," came the chorus. 1 minute. I thought of Myra. I thought of her small hand in mine when she was 4 years old, walking along the red sand of the Martian shore. I thought of her asking me if there were good aliens out there in the big dark. I had told her yes. I had told her that most people in the galaxy were kind. I had not lied to her. I had told her the truth as I believed it. Now I wondered what else was out there, something that could silence a world of poets. 10 seconds. 5, 3, 2, 1. We dropped out of jump, and the screen filled with fire. Velthari cities burned across the surface of their blue and green world. Smoke rose in huge clouds from what had once been floating gardens. Above the planet, hanging in low orbit like vultures over a corpse, were ships, dozens of them, black, twisted shapes that looked more like insects than machines. They were pulling long beams of light down to the surface, lifting masses of something I could not identify up to their hulls. I stared at the screen. My bridge stared with me. No one spoke for a long moment. Then Reyes whispered, "What in the name of everything holy are those?" I did not know, but I knew one thing. I knew what I was going to do about them. "All hands," I said, and my voice was steady now, steady in a way I had not felt in years. "Battle stations, this is not a drill." The alert sirens began to sound all across the ship. and somewhere inside my chest, I felt a storm begin to wake up. The enemy had a name, and we learned it in the first minute of the scan. Daniel Hughes at Tactical brought up the image of one of the black ships and overlaid it with our database. The computer searched. Most scans come back with a match inside a few seconds. This one did not. It searched for almost 30 seconds before it found a single old file buried in a folder of what our database called unverified rumors. The file was 12 years old. It had been uploaded by a scout ship that disappeared the next year and was never found again. "Sir," Daniel said, "the database calls them the Threx Dominion. There is almost nothing in the file, just a warning. A warning from a species that does not exist anymore. It says, quote, 'If you see these ships, you are already counted among the lost.'" I stared at the black shape on the screen. I had spent my whole career hearing stories from other species about a great evil that moved through the stars, harvesting worlds and leaving nothing behind. I had always thought the stories were myths, the kind of tales old spacers tell to scare young ones. They were not myths. "Count their numbers," I ordered. Daniel swallowed hard. 23 large warships in orbit, sir. 6 harvest platforms. I estimate each platform is pulling biological material from the surface at a rate of about 400 units per minute. "Biological material," Reyes repeated. Her voice was flat. "They are taking people." "Yes, ma'am," Daniel said. My jaw tightened. I looked at Clara. "Open a channel to the rest of the fleet, private." "Channel open, sir." "All captains," I said, "listen carefully. The enemy has 23 warships to our 6. Their vessels are larger than ours by an average of 3 times. I do not know their weapon range. I do not know their shield strength. I do know that they are not expecting us. I intend to use that." Captain Akoy of the Ironsides answered first. Her voice was calm as stone. "Tell us the plan, Vance." I turned to Daniel. "What is the nearest harvest platform?" "Platform 4. It is the closest to our position. It appears to have minimal escort, just 2 lighter ships nearby." "We hit it first," I said. "Full alpha strike. We break it open. We take the escorts out before the main fleet can turn to face us. Then we run. We use the broken platform as cover. We pull their warships out of formation piece by piece. They outnumber us, so we do not fight them all at once. We fight them one at a time, and we make every shot count." "That is a plan for a fleet battle," Captain Chen said over the comm. "Not a rescue." "We cannot rescue anyone while those warships are in the sky," I answered. "We clear the sky first, then we rescue whoever is left." There was a short silence, then Akoy spoke again. "Orders received. Ironsides ready to engage on your mark, Commander." "Bellerophon ready." "Redstone ready." "Stormcrow ready." "Longshot ready." I took a breath. "Mark." Our 6 ships broke from our arrival point in a sharp wedge. The Prometheus led the charge. We moved so fast that I could feel the inertial compensators struggle to keep up. My chair rattled under me. On the screen, the harvest platform grew larger by the second. For the first 10 seconds of our attack, the Threx did not react at all. It was as if they had not even noticed us. I remember thinking that was strange. Then a broadcast came through our translator, on all frequencies at once, in a voice that sounded like 1,000 insects clicking in unison. "Irrelevant biomass, continue the harvest." They thought we were nothing. They thought we were just more food on the plate. I leaned forward in my chair. My hands gripped the armrests so tightly my knuckles went white. "Tactical," I said, "fire everything." Daniel's fingers danced across his console. The Prometheus shuddered as every forward weapon we had opened up at once. Plasma cannons, torpedo tubes, rail drivers, point defense lasers. A wall of energy and metal reached out across space and hit the harvest platform like the hammer of a god. The platform cracked, not exploded, cracked. A huge split opened down its center, and strange green fluid poured out of the wound into the vacuum. Dozens of small escape pods launched from its underside. Our other ships opened up at the same moment. The Ironsides tore into one of the escort vessels with a broadside that lit up space like a second sun. The Bellerophon pinned the other escort with a torpedo spread that left nothing but debris. The platform was cracked open. The escorts were gone. We had hit hard and fast, and the Threx had taken the hit without firing back even once. "Break formation," I ordered. "Scatter pattern 7, use the debris cloud for cover." Our 6 ships split apart like a flock of birds. The Threx main fleet was finally turning, slowly, as if they did not quite believe what had just happened. I could almost feel their confusion through the screens. The hive mind broadcast shifted. No longer was it saying biomass. Now it was saying something else. "Unknown resistance. Classify, classify, classify." "They are trying to figure out what we are," Reyes said. "Good," I replied. "Let them wonder. It will cost them time." And time was the only thing I needed. The first Threx warship that turned to face us was a long, jagged thing shaped like the body of a wasp. Its hull was covered in pulsing veins of orange light. It moved faster than I expected, much faster. In less than 30 seconds, it closed the distance to us and opened fire. A beam of dark red energy struck the Prometheus across our port shield. The whole ship rocked. Alarms wailed. Sparks flew from a console near the back of the bridge. Grace Whitaker at engineering shouted that Shield 5 was down to 40%. "Evasive," I snapped. "Helm, bring us under their belly. Daniel, I want every rail round we have right into their underside." Peter Holloway at the helm was a young man, barely out of the academy, but he flew the Prometheus like she was his own body. He rolled the ship into a dive that would have made a fighter pilot proud. We slid under the Threx warship at a distance of less than a kilometer. Daniel fired every rail driver we had. The rounds tore through the bottom hull of the enemy ship. It broke in half. One half spun off into the void. The other half exploded in a silent flash of orange fire. A cheer went up on the bridge. "One down," Daniel reported. 22 to go. But the enemy was learning. 2 more Threx warships turned on us at once. Another 3 peeled off to chase the Bellerophon. The Stormcrow was already being pinned against the hulk of the broken Harvest platform. I could see on the screen that the Longshot had taken a serious hit to its engine section and was leaking plasma. This was not going to be easy. It was not supposed to be. Captain Akoi's voice came over the comm. Her Ironsides was taking fire from 2 Threx cruisers at the same time. Her shields were already down to 20%, but her voice was rock steady. "Vance," she said, "listen to me. The enemy is pulling ships away from the planet to chase us. The Harvest platforms are almost unprotected now. If someone can get Marines down there, we can save people." I thought for only 1 second. "Copy that, Akoi. Hold the line as long as you can." "We will hold until we cannot." I turned to Reyes. "Get Major Holt on the comm. I want every Marine on this ship suited up and ready to board Harvest Platform 2. It is the one nearest the surface. Tell him to bring every rescue pod we have. We are going to empty that platform of Velthari before the Threx can stop us." "Sir," Reyes said carefully, "if we send our Marines out now, the Prometheus loses its boarding defense. If the Threx counter-board us, we will not have anyone to repel them." "I know, do it anyway." She nodded once and turned to her console. I watched the battle map. 6 small blue dots against 21 red ones. The odds were terrible, but something was happening that the Threx did not understand yet. We were not running. We were not breaking. We were not afraid. And deep in my chest, where the Velthari ambassador had once told me a storm lived, the wind was starting to howl. The Marines launched in 3 drop pods from the underside of the Prometheus. I watched them go on the side screen. Major William Holt led them personally. I had known Holt for 10 years. He was a big, quiet man with scars on both hands and a photograph of his wife and 2 sons in his breast pocket. Before the pods launched, he had saluted me through the comm. "Bring back as many as you can," I told him. "Count on it, sir." The pods dropped into the atmosphere of the Velthari homeworld and vanished from my sensors as they went dark to avoid enemy fire. Now there was nothing to do but fight. The next hour was the longest of my life. We danced with the Threx warships in a battle that stretched across half the star system. We used the wreckage of the broken platform as cover. We led them into debris fields. We struck at their weak points and ran before they could strike back. We lost the Longshot at the 40-minute mark. Captain Finley of the Longshot stayed at his post and rammed his dying ship straight into a Threx cruiser. Both vessels were lost. 800 of our people died in that single moment. The Stormcrow lost its main gun but kept fighting with point defense only. The Redstone took so much damage its hull was venting atmosphere from 6 places, and yet Captain Aldridge refused to pull back. "We do not leave you, Vance," he said when I ordered him to withdraw. "We finish this together." I did not argue with him. I did not have the heart to. The Threx fleet was confused. Their hive mind could not seem to agree on how to fight us. They tried to fight as a group and we scattered. They tried to chase us in pairs and we killed them in pairs. For every one of our ships they damaged, they lost 2 or 3 of their own. But we were still outnumbered, and we were still losing. At the 1-hour mark, Reyes put a hand on my shoulder. "Sir," she said quietly, "we cannot keep this up much longer. The Ironsides is finished. Akoi has maybe 5 minutes left. The Stormcrow is ready to break apart. The Bellerophon is down to impulse only. If we do not do something different now, we are going to lose everyone." I looked at the battle map. She was right. I looked at the planet. Major Holt had made it to the surface. His Marines had reached a harvest platform. Thousands of Velthari civilians were being loaded into the rescue pods at that very moment. I needed more time. I needed a miracle. And then something happened that I never expected. Something that changed the meaning of everything I thought I knew about this galaxy. Clara at Communications gasped. "Sir," she said, staring at her screen. "Sir, you need to see this." "What is it?" "It is the Velthari, sir. All of them. They are launching." I turned to the main screen. From every continent of the Velthari homeworld, ships were rising, not warships. The Velthari had no warships. These were farm haulers, cargo tugs, family shuttles, atmospheric gliders, private craft with room for maybe 6 passengers. They came in the thousands, tens of thousands. And every single one of them was heading straight for the Threx fleet. My mouth opened. No words came out. Reyes whispered, "They are not running. They are fighting back with what they have." The Velthari had no guns. They had no shields. They had no hope of surviving what they were about to do. But they came anyway. They came for us because we had come for them. And in that moment, I understood what the old ambassador had meant when he had said his people remembered kindness. The storm inside my ribs was no longer a storm. It was a hurricane. "All ships," I said into the comm, and my voice was not my own anymore. "The Velthari are giving us cover. Use it. Press the attack. We end this now." The battle that followed was the strangest and most beautiful thing I had ever seen. The Velthari ships swarmed the Threx fleet like a cloud of small birds harrying a pack of wolves. They could not hurt the great warships, but they could blind their scanners. They could block their firing lines. They could distract them for just long enough for our human ships to strike. Thousands of Velthari gave their lives in those minutes. I will not forget a single one of them. We pushed forward. The Ironsides, burning and venting from 100 wounds, led the last charge. Captain Akoi fired every remaining torpedo she had into the flagship of the Threx fleet. The flagship cracked open. Akoi's ship was caught in the explosion. She died with her crew, and she died a legend. 6 Threx warships remained. Then 5. Then 4. And somewhere, far across the system, a new set of signals appeared on our sensors. Clara looked at them. Her eyes went wide. "Sir," she said, "Sir, we have incoming ships, many of them human signatures. It is the Third Fleet." I stared at her. "What?" "Sir, Admiral Tanaka has arrived with 28 warships. Our distress call finally reached her. She is here. She is here, sir." I sat down in my chair. I had been standing without realizing it. On the screen, the stars lit up with blue jump flashes as ship after ship of the human Third Fleet dropped into the system. They came in a perfect wedge formation, every gun already powered, every shield already raised. Admiral Emma Tanaka's face appeared on my personal comm. She was an older woman with iron-gray hair and eyes like a winter sea. She looked at me for a long moment. "Vance," she said, "you started without me." "I am sorry, Admiral." "Do not be sorry, be proud, and move aside. Let the Third Fleet finish what you began." The final part of the battle was not really a battle at all. It was a conclusion. The Third Fleet moved through the remaining Threx warships like a scythe through wheat. The Threx tried to run. They did not get far. Admiral Tanaka ordered a full pursuit. Not one enemy ship was allowed to escape the system. Not one. When the last Threx vessel fell silent, the stars were once again just stars. The Velthari homeworld, though scarred and smoking, was free. I stood on the bridge of the Prometheus and stared at the screen. I was covered in dust and small scratches from a console that had exploded near me earlier. My uniform was torn. My hands were shaking. I had not eaten in many hours. Reyes came to stand beside me. She did not speak. She did not need to. After a long time, she pointed at the screen. "Sir, look." I looked. What was left of the Velthari civilian fleet, the small haulers and shuttles and gliders that had sacrificed their own numbers to protect us, were gathering around the human ships. They formed a great ring around the Prometheus and the other surviving vessels. Thousands of little lights, blinking softly in the dark. And then over every open channel, a sound came through. Singing. The Velthari were singing. It was their old song, the one I had on my personal data pad, the one they had gifted to humanity 6 years ago as a sign of friendship. They sang it now in 1,000 voices, broken and tired but joyful beyond measure. I felt tears on my face and did not try to stop them. Reyes was crying too. Even Daniel at Tactical, the calmest man I had ever known, was wiping his eyes. "They are thanking us," Clara said softly. "No," I answered. "They are telling us we are family." 6 months passed. I stood in a new amphitheater on the surface of the Velthari homeworld. The walls were still being rebuilt. The trees around the structure were young, freshly planted to replace the ones that had burned. But the people were here, thousands of them, filling every seat, every balcony, every standing space. The new high speaker of the Velthari stood in the center of the round stage. She was young, with pale blue feathers that had not yet fully grown in. Her name was Lishra. She had survived the attack only because Private Marcus Delgado of our Marine Force had shielded her body with his own when a section of ceiling had collapsed during the rescue. Delgado had lived. Barely. He was in the front row of the amphitheater now, seated beside his parents, who had traveled all the way from Earth to see this day. Lishra spoke to the gathered crowd and to the many galactic representatives who had come to witness the event. Her voice was soft, but it reached every corner of the building. "We of the Velthari have lost much," she said. "We cannot bring back what was taken from us. We cannot fill the empty spaces at our tables, or unburn the libraries, or unbreak the songs that ended too soon. These wounds will be with us for all our generations." She paused, then she looked directly at the human delegation. "We remember something else. We remember who came. We sent a call into the dark. We sent it to every ear that could hear. The galaxy is full of old civilizations, wise and powerful. The galaxy did not answer. Only one voice answered. Only one fleet came, and they came with almost no hope of winning. They came because we asked. And so today we speak a truth that our children will speak for 1,000 years. When the Velthari call, the humans come, not because they must, because they choose to. The amphitheater was silent. Then slowly the Velthari began to stand, all of them, every single one, and they bowed deeply in the direction of the humans. I stood too. I did not know what else to do. Later that evening, after the ceremony, I sat with the old Velthari ambassador I had known for years. His name was Telvarin. He looked tired, but he was smiling. We sat on a balcony overlooking the city, watching the sun set over the ocean. "Do you remember," he said, "what I told you once about storms?" "Every day," I answered. He nodded slowly. "Our young ones have asked me what humans are like. They want to know what to believe about your species. I have told them a simple thing. I have told them that humans are not always gentle. They are not always quiet. They are not always safe. But when you cry out into the empty places between stars and you think no one will come and your last hope is almost spent, then listen. Because if anyone is coming, it will be them, and they will not come softly." I did not answer him for a long time. When I did, my voice was quiet. "Thank you, old friend." He smiled. "Thank you, young captain." 3 weeks after that, I was back on the bridge of the Prometheus. My ship had been repaired. Most of my crew had been replaced or rotated. Clara Bennett was now a lieutenant. Daniel Hughes had been promoted to chief. Peter Holloway was studying for his officer exam. Grace Whittaker had been given her own engineering command on a new vessel. Major Holt had recovered from his wounds and was back in uniform. And Hannah Reyes was no longer my second in command. She was now Captain Reyes of the new starship Valiant, which had joined my task force as its second flagship. The first time she appeared on my personal comm as a fellow captain, she grinned at me so hard I thought her face might crack. "How does it feel, Captain?" I asked her. "Feels like I want to go find trouble, sir." "Then you and I are in the right place." We received new orders that morning. Clara brought them to me herself, walking up to my chair with her data pad held out. "Sir," she said, her voice was tight, "we have another signal, a distress call, deep space, a species we have never made contact with before." "Show me." She brought up the message on the main screen. The words were in an unknown language, half-translated, broken, and desperate. A single phrase came through clearly enough to understand. "Please, if anyone is out there, please." I read the phrase twice, then I looked up at my bridge crew. Every face was already turned toward me, every pair of eyes already waiting. I thought of my daughter Myra. She had sent me a letter the week before, telling me she had signed up for the Fleet Academy. She wanted to be a pilot. She wanted to follow in my path. I thought of Captain Okoye. I thought of Captain Finley. I thought of 800 souls on the long shot and a salute I would never forget. I thought of the Velthari ambassador and the storm he had seen in my chest. And I thought of every species still out there in the great dark, crying out for help, praying that someone, anyone, would hear them. I stood up from my chair. "Plot the course," I said. "Signal the fleet. We are going." Reyes appeared on the side screen. She was already smiling. "Right behind you, sir." The stars shifted. The jump drive hummed. The Prometheus turned her nose toward the unknown dark. The aliens had sent a distress signal.